Hi, I'm Heather Butler. I'm the Social Sciences and History Librarian here at South. Today we're going to talk about research questions. And I'll show you the steps of one way that you can use to try to build a research question. So, research questions are what sets the content for your project or your paper. It tells you when you're looking for articles, if an article needs to be kept or ignored. It also lets you know when you're writing your paper if you're on track or off track. You can always look back at your research question and kind of refocus. Research questions cannot be answered with yes or no. They need to be answerable and they need to be answered with proof, but they need a more complex answer than just yes or no. So, let's go through the steps of building a research question together. So you always need to start off with some kind of initial idea, initial topic. For me, interested in nursing. And so I'm going to build out my topic of nursing into a research question by asking myself expanding questions. First is who? Who is related to nursing? There's nurses, patients, administrators. I could talk about specific kinds of patients, specific nurses. Where? Where does this nursing happen? Hospitals, clinics, Florida, classrooms. I can talk about different locations within a hospital, different geographical locations. When? When does nursing happen? Nursing school, late career, night shifts. I could talk about the specific timing of shifts. I could talk about the specific timing within a nurse's career or within a nurse's life. I could also talk about things that happen before you become a nurse, as in, what kind of training happens, what kind of education happens, whatever is interesting to me. Why? Why does nursing happen, or why does nursing affect us? And so we could talk about long hours, the specialized support that nurses provide, things like that. And then how? How does nursing happen or affect us? So for this, that we can talk about the training that nurses go through. Nurses get affected by, they can develop compassion fatigue, they can be affected by the turnover that happens in their workplaces. So, I don't have to use all of these questions and all of my answers when I make my research question. I can just choose to focus on one or a few that I find very interesting. So here's a couple of examples of research questions that I can make out of my initial topic of nursing and out of the who, where, when, why, how considerations we made. So I could think about, how do holiday shifts affect nurses' family relationships? How can nursing school programs help prevent compassion fatigue? How has nurse turnover in Florida hospitals affected nurses' workplace social well-being? So from that, these are all questions that cannot be answered with yes or no. I'd have to go and look up proof, and for some of them, probably do my own research and data collection. So, if you are having trouble thinking of the initial topic, ask yourself, what are my career goals? Why am I in this course? Why did I choose this degree? Things like that to find out what your interest is, because it is always much easier to do a project if you have an actual interest in the topic. You just have to force yourself less in that situation. So, good luck!